There are quite a few people who say they would start gardening, but it's a bit expensive. Yes, there are upfront costs, but there are many things that you can do to reduce the cost. And some of these things are right inside of your house and a few in your yard. So we're going to take a look at some of those today. If you've never been here before, my name is Marlene. Welcome everyone. Welcome to my home and garden channel. Now let's take a look at these budget-friendly ideas.
So the first one is planting perennials, which are plants that last for 3 or more years. And I showed these in a previous video of my neighbor's garden. These right over here, these are some coneflowers that are at my mailbox. And quite often you want to plant perennials that are, native species to your area. So they attract a lot of pollinators, which of course helps your fruits and veggies to have a higher yield. And what they say is that, in the first year perennials sleep, the second year they creep, and the third year they leap. And what that basically means is in the first year, they're establishing their roots. Second year, you'll get a few more blooms because, they're spreading out and really coming into themselves. And then the third year is when they really come to life. They just fluff out. They look so nice. And what happens is that at that point, you can divide them, at 3 years and going forward, you can get lots more plants from it. So definitely something you want to do. And perennials too are good plants for winter sowing because they're used to, handling cooler weather when they're a little bit more dormant, and the seeds will come up whenever they're ready. And I did this recent video, though it was on herbs, the same rule applies to your perennial flowers. So I'll be sure to link it for you.
And let's move along to the next category. Using kitchen scraps. And we're not talking about junk, guys. Food that's good and fresh. And we'll take a look at them, a few examples for you. The first one would be, for example, like your scallions or green onions, as some people call them. When you can see all these roots at the bottom right here. Let me show them to you. You can see them. When you're going to use your green onions, you can just cut off like to about here, and you can use the rest of the top and just put this in some water. It's going to grow in just a matter of a week. You'll have it almost where it was before in 1 week, guys. And then you can harvest it at that point and then plant what's left in the soil. I find that typically after you've used it twice, it starts to, deteriorate. So I'd say reuse it once and then plant it in some soil, and you'll have scallions or green onions, whatever you call them, and they'll be perfect for you. So definitely give that a try, guys. It works time and time again, and I'll show you some right here that my sister did.
So these are they right here, guys, and this was just a few days after she had cut them off, and they were resprouting again, and they did pretty well. After a few days, they were really tall. I didn't get to show you the full length of it right here, but this is basically what we're talking about regarding this.
Celery is another one again. We typically don't eat the bottom part, of course. You can just cut it off to like about right here and just set the bottom in water. You set it in water, it gets roots. You can harvest it that way repeatedly, or you can put it in some soil and have it grow out that way. So that's another one again. So let's say you kept your potatoes for too long. You can take a closer look at this here and see it's growing. You can see little leaves forming right there. So if it's too far gone for you to cook it, don't throw it away, guys. You can plant them. Just plant them out in some soil. You can do this in grow bags. You can do them in large containers or your flower bed, and you can get lots of potatoes from that. So that's a way to save money. If you're not wasting the money, then you're saving money. So that's good. Ginger is another one again. If you've had it for a while and it started to grow, let me see. I think this one may have a few of them right there. If that happens to you, you can go ahead and just plant it in some soil. And I'll show you right here an example how you could do that in containers and the harvest.
So all you basically do is just to cut off pieces, maybe about say an inch where the little sprout is, and put them in your container or your flower bed. She had put these in really tight in here. They were really close together. So you can see I kind of had a little bit of a hard time getting them out, but that's okay. They came up and they were wonderful. And what I'll say is that try to plant them earlier in the season after your first frost date if you're in a temperate area, so that way they have more time, because these could have had a little bit more time, but we were still okay with the harvest. And I'm telling you, it smelled so good over here. That ginger smell was just wonderful. And we even boiled the leaves and had them for tea as well too, and it tasted so good. So there's so many different ways to take advantage of your ginger if they're sprouting on you. You can even try some that have not. And the same is true for turmeric as well too. You can plant them in a similar way, and turmeric is so good for you.
Another one again is your bananas, like banana peel. Banana peel is very, very good to help your plants to flower because it has potassium in it, lots of that. It also has phosphorus in there, and those help your plant to bloom and also help to give them healthy roots. So you just peel it off, use your banana as usual, soak it in some water for a few days, and then you can strain it off, and you are good to go to get your plants all the nourishment that they would want.
And this is one I have soaking over here. This is just one banana peel, and this is about 3 days in. So I'm gonna go ahead and just strain it off when I'm ready and just, pour it over. And you can dilute it if you have a lot, like it's a very concentrated solution. You can go ahead and dilute it and pour it on your plants. If not, you can just go ahead and use it as is.
Another good use for kitchen scraps is to amend your soil. So let's say you have some old cabbage leaves, banana peels, potato peels, just discarded things that you wouldn't cook with or you wouldn't eat those. Could be like apple skins if you don't eat the skin. You can just put them like in little plastic bags like this. And once you have enough, you can put them in your blender and blend them out. Mix them into your soil. They should be good to go after that time passes. And then you can start planting things in your soil, and your plants are gonna love you for it.
And guys, things that you should avoid putting in your flower beds or your compost pile would be like your meats, like cooked or uncooked, as well as baked products, like breads and muffins and stuff like that, because they harbor the wrong pests. And citrus in moderation because it can make your soil acidic.
The next one is sowing seeds. And some seeds can be pretty inexpensive. Sometimes at the dollar store, you may get them at a really, really inexpensive price, especially when the garden season is about to begin. And some people say not all of them work for them, but give it a try. If it doesn't work, you can try another type. But it's definitely a good way for you to save money, sowing your seeds.
And these are some other seed types over here. These are burpee seeds. You have Ferris Moore. I did that in a recent shopping video at Home Depot. But there's so many different types of seeds that you can get, and it pays for itself way ahead of time, when you consider how much it costs compared to getting starts and transplants.
What you can also do where seeds are concerned is to save your seeds. And I did a recent video that shows you how to do that for marigold seeds, but I saved seeds from anything if it was a really good crop, it tasted really good, or it's a different variety, I'll go ahead and I will harvest those and save them. So like I have cosmos seeds right here. I have marigold seeds right here. I have some well, we call it pumpkin, but it's also called like winter squash. You can save those seeds as well, and you plant them in the spring, and they're good to go. This is how they're looking right there.
And this is a video that I did a few months ago, showing you one of my favorite marigolds that I had planted by seed, and I showed you how to collect them, and this is what they were looking like going through the process.
And if you didn't have any seeds, guys, it's okay to ask. Let's say you have a neighbor or you visit somewhere and you see that they have seeds there, that like in their garden, they have dried out and you always wanted some of those, or a neighbor, you can just ask them. And most times people are willing to give you some seeds. So even that way it's free. There is no cost to it at all.
And again, winter sowing is a good way to start off like your cool weather flowers and your perennials. They give you a jump start, with your seed planting process. And so you're way ahead of the game by the time, spring kicks in. These right here are some beautiful shrub mint that I'd gotten, and I loved it so much. It was one of the best mints I've had. So of course I propagated it. So that's the next one that we're looking at, propagation. So it's trimmed back right here. It's inside because it's a more tropical type of mint. You can see where I cut it there. So it's nice and warm inside, but not just that, it's springing again. So I have more that I can use to harvest to make tea. And over here, these are the ones that I propagated. They're in water right here, and I can also harvest some from these while they're growing inside. So when the spring comes around, I am going to have multiple plants from this, just from the one. So propagation is really good, especially things that have woody tissue. It's good to just set them in some water. Make sure you take off all the leaves that are resting in the water, because that will cause it to deteriorate quickly, and change your water at least once per week. You should have nice, white, healthy roots, and that's how you know that everything is good to go. The next one is to try to get your plants, more so perennials, at discount prices. And this typically happens towards the end of the season when all the excitement is not so much anymore. They lower the prices, demand has gone down. Get them at that point. You can plant them. If they need to be protected from the cold, you could do that. But if you know they're perennials that they'll come back, just plant them and they'll come back for you the following year. And you go through the whole perennial process and you get so rewarded, by making a decision like that. Next thing is to buy in bulk. So like these bulbs right here, it's a pretty good deal because you're getting so many. You can get bags with 50. And of course, if you have large areas, this is when it would make sense. If it's a smaller area, then of course not. But if you have a large area to cover, just get a lot and you save so much by buying in bulk. And these are some tulip bulbs, and we had the daffodil bulbs right next to it, which I love both of those. So you plant those in the fall and you're good to go for a beautiful spring garden. Next one would be to save your soil, like to reuse your soil. Me personally, I'll say that is one of the most ways that money is spent in my gardening journey. So what I started to do is to reuse it. So like for the older plants, when I'm taking out the annuals or even some, if I'm moving perennials and there's a lot of soil left behind, I'm going to go ahead and get some of that soil. If you need to use a sift and sift it out, you can sift it out. So that way you only have a smaller amount to add into it. Also, you can add things like coffee grounds to it and of course the food scraps that we discussed before to help to nourish the soil. And when you are making raised beds, a good idea is not to have them too high if you're stacking them yourself. Of course, if it's come already made, there's nothing you can do about it. But if you're the one that's making the raised bed, I'd say maybe like if you're using cinder blocks, go up maybe like 1 row, 2 rows at the most, so that way you don't use as much to fill it because it can take quite a lot of soil and that really will cost you a lot. So even if you're using the lasagna method or hugelkultur method, as some people call it, and you put the logs on the bottom, bearing in mind that over time they're going to shrink and go down, so you're still going to need to add more soil to it. So if it's not as high, then you stand a better chance of saving more money. And of course, there are other ways to replenish your soil apart from the food scraps and coffee grounds. You can also make a solution using Epsom salt. Bear in mind that they're fragrance-free varieties that you would want to use. And, you can get those online. I can link this one for you. You can check that out if you want to, or you can get them at your pharmacy or wherever they're sold. And it's just 2 parts of the Epsom salt to 2 gallons of water. You just mix it around and you apply them to your plants. I'd say like maybe once in 2 or 3 weeks, and they're going to love you for it. Tomatoes and peppers, they especially love that because the magnesium in there helps them to have nice showy leaves in the start of their, when they're coming out. And I just wanted to take a moment to invite you to subscribe to my channel if you've never done so before. Come along and see all of my gardening adventures, gardening tours, gardening tips. I love the exchange of ideas. We learn from each other, and that's what it's all about. I do my uploads every Thursday with a few sprinkled in between. So if you haven't seen a video from me, come on over to my channel and take a look to see what's going on. The next one now is in terms of, we're still on soil, yes. If you put soil in the pots and they're large holes, sometimes the soil may go through. You can also sometimes have like ants come in and they just ruin everything. So an easy fix for that would be to use coffee filters to cover the bottom of the holes. The water is going to pass through and some things will not be able to come in, and it works wonderfully well. This is a impatient that I planted in the spot that I've had for so many years, and it did so well. And I will have a future video showing you a step-by-step of how this one started out and where it ended up. The next one would be to clean your tools. Yes, and try not to leave them outdoors. They do wonderful jobs for us, but if we leave them out in the rain, then they can go out there and they get rusty, depending on what they're made from, and then they're no good anymore. You have to spend money to buy another one as well. So it's best to just get them and, clean them off, wash them with soap and water, and then you can go ahead and clean them and dry them off and just store them inside. Sometimes they can get lost in the garden, and that happens to me sometimes. That's why I like the bright colors, so I can see them more easily. That's less likely to happen. And what I use to clean them, another step in the process, is to use rubbing alcohol just to wipe them down. The smaller ones, not like the shovel, of course, but the smaller ones. And I also use hydrogen peroxide as well because they help to prevent the spread of disease from one plant to another. And I use 1 part of hydrogen peroxide and 2 parts water. And then I go ahead and mix it out. If I'm using a small amount, it's just 1/3 cup, and I go all the way up to 1 cup. So that's a 1 to 2 ratio right there. Then I put it in my spray bottle, and I use this as a fungicide sometimes for my roses and other plants like that, and of course to clean whatever needs to be cleaned. And it works out really, really well. If you ever use that, you can let me know in the comments and tell me if it worked out for you or not. The next one now would be when you're buying trees, try to buy them at a smaller size. These are some peach trees right here. You can see they're in bloom. It's late winter, which is the best time to plant your fruit trees if you're in a temperate area. They're blooming so beautifully, but the larger they are, the more you're going to pay. So it's better to just get the smaller ones and start from there if you're on a budget. So that's what I would suggest. Plants like Japanese maple, they're absolutely gorgeous, but they can be quite pricey depending on your budget. And if you're not wanting to say go for something really large for a special reason, I would say go ahead and try for the smaller ones. You know, they'll come up over time and they're going to be beautiful for you. And it's just wonderful to watch them come into themselves and see how they develop. And that is, you know, an added plus of gardening. Just to give you my own example here, this is a crepe myrtle right here. I've had it for quite a few years and it is so beautiful. I just love to see it every summer when it just fills out. And when we started, it was even smaller than these, maybe like about a third the size of this one here. So we paid a lot less for it. But you see what happened over time. It got bigger and bigger. And, you know, we have to cut it back every winter to make sure that it, you know, comes up the right way in the shape that we want. So patience, guys, is definitely a part of gardening. You know, once you know, pack your patience in, it will be so much worth the wait. The next one is using your fallen leaves in the fall for mulch on your plants. If they're not diseased, of course. If they're diseased, you have to just get rid of them. And I've done this video as some of my tasks that I was doing for the fall season. You can check that out. Just go to my video tabs. You can scroll down and you'll see all of them there, because I can't link everything. I wish I could, but we don't have that option. But I certainly hope that this was helpful to you. I thank you so much for watching, and be sure to come back and be sure to share this with your friends like gardening, because if they like gardening, then we all learn from each other and it is a wonderful experience. So happy gardening, happy planning, and I do hope to see you in the next one. Take care.